Hi guys, I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about max power, what it was about, and ultimately why it probably collapsed and phased out. So max power, it's called the max power era because Max Power was a magazine that came out for all us lads that were into cars. I mean, it came out a little bit before my time really, but it was for all us lads that were into cars. I wanted to modify them. I mean, back then cars, they weren't the prettiest looking things. I mean, they looked okay, but most of the cars, you know, we could get our hands on, they would come with wheels that were way too small for the arches. You'd be left with like huge arch gaps, really high off the floor, ugly black bumpers, because bumpers back then were designed to take the impact a lot more than they are now. Nowadays you've got like the bars behind the bumpers that take the impact, but back then bumpers were actually called bumpers because that's what they were there to do, and they didn't look very good. So you could either extend them, modify them, or get one of the body kits that they used to sell back then. They weren't the prettiest of body kits. They're pretty poor quality, to be honest, for the money that you spent on them. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they're pretty cheap, but back then, you know, it wasn't cheap to us. I mean, and the whole era, to be honest, I think was great because anybody could have a go. That's how I started off. I mean, my Renault behind me, if you've seen it or not, that has been built by me. Not because, you know, I knew what I was doing as such. I would read the magazines. I would think, how am I going to do that? And, you know, many a day spent on my mum and dad's driveway with an angle grinder. I look back and I think the neighbours must have hated me because, you know, always noise from the grinder or whatever I was using. Had been known to get overspray on neighbours' cars. Yeah, but yeah, the joy of it was there wasn't really, well, social media didn't exist. There was no pressure to build, you know, any sort of car in any direction. You just built what you wanted to build. If you could think of it in your head, I don't know, if you're like an arty type person, somebody that was creative, if you could think about it, then you could work out the skills, then you would do it. Because I mean, YouTube videos weren't about back then. It wasn't like you could just pick up your phone, watch a YouTube video, and then you would be able to have an idea of how to start doing things. It was literally trial and error. You'd go down to Halfords or wherever you would go, I know, your local A to Z, pick up some filler, some fiberglass or whatever, and it was just trial and error. Anybody could have a go though, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, things haven't changed that much. People can still have a go, but there's a lot of pressure on people these days, down to social media, not to have a go because they're scared to have a go because of judgment of people. But that's what it was all about back then. I mean, you can see the signs behind me, the reunion. That show is a great show. It's got finished cars, you know, higher end cars, but also if you're having a go at a project and you just want to turn up and show off, then that's what that era really is all about. It's just about a community, and I'd like to think that that's what the car community is or should be about. It definitely was to me back then. Most of the people I know then and now are through cars. There's no real ego. Everybody enjoyed everybody's stuff. Nowadays I think you can turn up at the show and things are very judgy, and I think that's rubbing off social media because, you know, social medias give people a platform to bitch about people without getting punched in the face is the honest answer. Yeah, people can be very negative, but I think that's a sign of the times. I mean, people are scared to come out with what their ideas. They get turned around. They might start building something, put pictures on one of the socials, and someone be like, oh, that looks shit, and the next thing you know, they've gone in a totally different direction, which is a shame because that's what stops creativity. And for those that don't understand max power, that's really what it was all about. Like, you look at some of the cars and you think, why? Well, because why not? If you can imagine it, then do it. Like, the beauty of it was, like, again, no social media, you would be building a car all year ready for Max Power Live, and nobody would see it. You know, there was nobody judging it, there was nobody pointing you in one direction or the next to do this, that and the other. You had your own ideas and you just cracked on with them, and then you would unveil it or show it off at the Max Power Show or one of the shows alike, and hope, well, I guess it didn't really make any difference back then. People weren't so worried about being judged, but you know, you would just show it off and be proud of your creation. People might love it, they might hate it, but hey, who cares? It's yours. And that's, to me, what cars are about. You know, putting yourself and your personality into them. You know, my car is a million miles away from everybody's taste. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I don't care. That is my car, and that's what I love, and I feel like that's what everybody in the car community should be like, you know. Just do what you want to do what makes you happy. In a time where people are afraid to put pictures of how they really look because of filters and all that nonsense, blah blah blah, and every single photo has to be posted and all that, just break the mold and just do you. Don't try and be like everybody else. Just do what you want to do and do what makes you happy. And that, for me, is what the whole Max Power era was about. And that's why, you know, going back to what I was saying about coming around, the cars weren't great looking, and you would just have a go at doing something, and it would just get crazier and crazier and crazier as the years went on, just because you're like, well, I can do it, so why not? You end up with about 9 screens in your car, PlayStation, or even a great big screen, ridiculous amount of speakers. I mean, I've got Max Power magazine here, so this was my inspiration. This used to be my bedroom poster car, but I mean, my car isn't as crazy inside as this one. I mean, you can see here, you've got speakers everywhere. You've got a Dreamcast in the dash. Just a crazy interior. I mean, a lot of people remember this car, Charisma's Renault 5, with Charisma being one of the most popular tuning companies, or well, not tuning, one of the most popular modification companies back then. You can see it was just a little bit crazy, because why not? I mean, at the time, Charisma was the company that set the bar. Everybody else sort of followed behind. Yeah, we all just had a go on a drive, and that's what it was about, bringing your mates together, having a go. I mean, I drove past Halfords, it was probably last year now, quite a long time ago, and there was 2 teenagers, must have been late teens, maybe 18, 19, and they were stood at the side. I mean, nothing against women doing things they're as capable as us, if not more so at certain things, but as a guy, I looked, there was these 2 teenage boys, and they were watching this girl that worked in Halfords changing a bulb for them. I mean, I would be embarrassed to be stood out there doing that, and that just shows the difference between, I guess, then and now. I mean, you see a meme that says, oh, you think people are clever, smart, and now they used to tell you how to adjust the valves on your car. Now they tell you not to drink the battery fluid or whatever. But yeah, so true, so true. People don't, like, you can go to a show now to somebody with a very, very modified car, like done out to the nines, and you can ask them something about that car, and they'll know absolutely nothing about it, because they haven't laid a finger on the car. They've literally just paid somebody else to do that car and drove it to the show, which is okay. If you like cars and that's what you want to do, then it is what it is. You're part of the car community. But I just think it's a shame, like, that not to be doing at least something to your own car. You know, building it, putting your own stamp on it, and learning new skills. It's so easy just to hand some money over to somebody else and just say, here, can you do that? And it's okay, because you've got your vision, and that's pretty cool. I know people that do that. But the whole Max Power era, for me, maybe not for everybody back then, I don't know, I'm just judging it from my point of view, my standpoint, but for me, I loved it, because being quite a creative person, I could just get out some filler, do what I wanted to do to the car, and I made a lot of friends through it. I mean, me and my mates used to do our own cars, and then after a while we opened, well, we didn't open a garage, it was just a garage in a back alley, and people would turn up and they would get us to do their cars, like Max Power style. And now my mate runs a body shop off the back of it, like. So it built, you know, he got a career out of it. So yeah, it was definitely all about the community, the people, and building and being able to build your car. As stupid as those cars were, and as crazy as they were, everything blended in. Lamborghini doors, changing your front headlights for a lot of the time it was Volkswagen Golf headlights. No matter what car you had, Volkswagen Golf headlights in there. Yeah, there was a Corsa with like a Jaguar front end. It was absolutely crazy. I know my mate's Corsa, that was the Corsa, it had 22s on it and speakers everywhere. Even the steering wheel was a subwoofer. You just wouldn't see that now. And don't get me wrong, like the cars nowadays, generally, I would say the quality of the builds, especially the higher end builds, is better. It is a better standard of build on the car, because again, a lot of cars back then were built by somebody in a garage. Don't get me wrong, not all of them were. There was people that would spend an absolute fortune on their cars, and pay somebody else to do them. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of the cars were built by someone in their garage, which, you know, is an accomplishment. It feels good even to this day. Like when I'm at the shows talking to people and they're talking to me about my car and telling me stories about their owning an old Renault 5 or something like that in the past, it gives me a sense of pride, because it's me and my two hands that have built that. And you know, I would love to teach other people to do it as well. I'm looking forward to building a car with my son. He's 18 now, he's doing his lessons. I'm looking forward to, although, you know, because of insurance these days, it won't be able to be as crazy as we would probably like to do it, but it would be pretty cool to do, you know, just some subtle touches like blending things in and just making a cool looking car for him. But yeah, that's what it's all about. But then it sort of phased out because, you know, everything, a lot of people look down on the Max Power era. I think some of it is laughable. I mean, I look back at some of my cars and I think, Jesus, I used to drive that. You know, I had a great time. But a lot of the modifications we used to do are what started off cars as they changed and are now. I mean, the scrappage scheme came around, which took a lot of older cars off the road, which has obviously hiked the price of classic cars up now, because a lot of people traded in their classic cars for $5,000 so they could go buy a newer car or whatever. But if you look back at, you know, the modifications we used to do, bigger wheels to fit the arches, screens in the dashboard, onboard computers, albeit there were PlayStations back then. Like now you've got your computer built into your car in Teslas and things like that. You know, nicer interiors, seats, better sound systems. Cars sit better, they're lower. The wheels sit in the arches better. They fill the arches width-wise, height-wise. Cars just look better. Bumpers now are colour-coded and they look, you know, sleek, which is what we used to try and do with our bumpers back then. So, you know, there's a lot to thank the Max Power era for, without trying to take, you know, too much credit. There's a lot of things in modern cars now that we created, you know, on our driveways. These were all our ideas, and the manufacturers thought, you know what, they're not bad, let's put these ideas on our cars and make some money out of them. So I feel like we should be getting some kind of commission. Yeah, because I mean, you used to have like a competition in Max Power where you would draw. This was the drawing that won, and they made that body kit. But yeah, you look at that, like, all right, the bumpers and everything are a little bit more stupid, but in the grand scheme of things, bigger wheels, slicker bumpers, that is essentially what modern cars are now. And that's really how the Max Power era came around, and it just grew and grew. Ideas would get crazier. And really, that's why we all loved it so much, because it was just about your own imagination doing what you wanted to do. I mean, this Max Power Live, I mean, this was one hell of a show. It was huge. In comparison to modern car shows, this was ginormous. As a teenager, all I wanted was to pass my test, modify my car. That was it. That was my life goal. I would go to shows before. I had already bought my car, but I'd go to shows before I drove my car, because you couldn't just go on the internet and order parts. So I'd go to shows, look at the parts on the stalls, come home on the train with like spoilers and all sorts of different things to put on my car. Good memories, really. And then, you know, look forward to getting home and fitting them. Nowadays, I mean, you can order stuff on the internet, turns up at your door, and away you go. There's not quite the effort somehow. That's one thing I will say about Max Power. You would go to shows as much to see half-naked women as you would do the cars. Back then, it was a lot more easygoing. Some, you know, things have changed, some for better, some for worse, but it was definitely a good time, that I can tell you. Yeah, God, cruises. I mean, part of the motto of Max Power was cruising is not a crime. Obviously, things have changed now. Police have changed that, so cruising is not a crime. You will get locked up, or at least get points on your license. I mean, yeah, definitely some things have changed. But I mean, look at this page. This is a cruise. There's just girls getting the boobs out of things, and perhaps not too appealing. Women are now making financial gain from doing that kind of thing, and I applaud them for it. But still, we had a laugh. I mean, you look at people there. I mean, I'm gonna cover her boobs, but they were just normal. We were just normal people. No, nobody was afraid that they were like, oh, let me look at that picture. Oh, delete it. It doesn't look good. You just take a photo, and that was that. Like, we were all people. Well, I mean, that's probably a lie. We weren't all happy with who we were we? We were all young and trying to find our way and work out who we were. But people were a lot more relaxed. I think the world has become very pressurised off the back of social media about how you look, what you do, comparing lives to other people's lives, rather than just saying, you know what, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and that's that. But yeah, I was talking about earlier about people working on the cars. They would have a section in Max Power designed to teach you, to help you fit, you know, make different things. So this is the ice install. Shows you how to do that. You'd have a couple of pages, and you would get ideas of how to do that. Obviously not as good as YouTube, but still, forgot about that. That's pretty handy. Oh yeah, there's another page there. He's fitting the amps and that, and you'd get the information that you needed. Oh, in the back of here, there's a whole section of naughty stuff, really. I mean, this is as a kid, again, because mobile phones, they had Snake back then. They didn't have access to all the naughty things we have now, shall we say. You know, you'd have Nurse Jackie. She would, someone would write in stories, and she would give stupid advice back to them. You'd have readers' wives sending in pictures, probably for the best that doesn't still exist. And their stories, they would tell you about themselves and what have you. Yeah. And just to top it off, the free gift is a tug target, just in case, you know, just in case you need it and you want to aim at something. Dear, oh dear. Yeah, it does. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't get any better in this section. Probably for the best that this doesn't still exist. Back then it was pretty cool though. And going back to what I was just saying about the naughty stuff not existing on phones now, you would have numbers in the back that you would call and talk dirty to a woman who would tell you all sorts of different things, but we're probably at home doing our ironing. Never rang one, but people are probably going to question that. But yeah, never rang one, but I can only imagine what that was all about. But yeah, that is why I love that era. Really, it was just an era where you could just be yourself, just do what you wanted to do, no pressure really. Just be you, do what you wanted to do, look how you wanted to look, build the car that you wanted to build, no judgment, no pressure. You know, you were just enjoying yourself. And as I say, it's got a lot to thank that era for, because modern cars probably wouldn't look as they do without that era. I think the people building cars then have got a bit of credit to take for how cars look now. Whether I'm right or wrong remains to be seen, I don't know. But cars definitely have a lot of features on them now that we started putting into cars. So that is what I'm going to roll with, and I'm happy to stick with that. Yeah, in the back you would have your wheels. So you'd buy wheels, you'd buy body kits, turbos, air filters, whatever, suspension, whatever you could get your hands on, you would generally look in the back of the magazine. I mean, I remember, because I was quite young, I was like 14, and I would get my mum to ring up the line to order tickets to Max Power Live for me, and then they'd come in the post. She'd be excited, waiting for the tickets to come, and then they'd come and, you know, get the train to wherever you were going to go. It was a good time. I used to love it. Still do now, to be honest. Obviously driving my own car to the shows and all that, and talking to people that have been through that era, telling me their stories. I really enjoy, and telling me stories about their car, perhaps what they've got, had, or if they've owned a Renault 5. That's what the car community is all about. Like, still to this day, making new friends from it, over 20 years on. And I've got a lot to thank it for myself. It's brilliant. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about, the big boy exhausts. Why has he got an exhaust that big? Why has he got so many? Why not? And there was nobody to jump in and tell you why not, so you just go with it. Yeah, fantastic times. I mean, you would get your Max Power DVDs. I've watched these with my son, and he was a bit taken aback by them, but they were a good laugh to watch. Yeah, and I'm glad that this show here exists, the Max Power reunion, so, you know, I can relive it with some of the people that went through it at the same time as me, people that I probably didn't meet back then. I mean, some of them I did but didn't know, and now it's come back around and we're all enjoying the same thing we were doing back then. I guess you could call it a midlife crisis, but it's a good one. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, great community. Everybody's very welcoming people, and just enjoying the car scene. So if you don't understand the Max Power era, that is pretty much what it's all about. Just being crazy and creative. And I think some people are a lot more creative than others, and that's probably the cars that you'll look at and think, what the hell is that? Why has he done that? Just because that's what we wanted to do. That there was no stoppers, there was nobody saying, excuse me, there was nobody saying that doesn't look good, or you shouldn't do that, that's daft, or anything really. You were just allowed to go about your business, which is how the world should still be. Stop feeling pressured by your social medias and all that, and do what you want to do. Build yourself an absolutely nuts car, put some stupidly big wheels on it, stupid bumpers, all the crazy features, and just roll with it, because you never know, it might just be worthwhile. It might just be the thing that makes you get up in the morning and puts a smile on your face, and that is what matters, not what anybody else thinks. It is all about what it makes you feel. And on that bombshell, I'm gonna bring this video to an end. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.